My name is John Ward. Some of you will know me already. I run an infamously unpleasant blog called The Slog. And I'm rather new to this Talking Heads lark, so bear with me. It's not going to be Pat Condell level of professionalism. A little fireside chat, fire in the background there, or join that. Time check in the back there, you see. It's all high-tech, it's just not terribly polished high-tech. But in the meantime, this is something more important than polish, because as Boris himself once said many months ago, you can't polish a turd. Unfortunately, he's now trying to do exactly that. Brexit has become a big news story over the last 24 hours. The only problem is, as usual, the mainstream media have missed it. Boris Johnson is not going to push any new initiatives on the withdrawal deal, none at all. You can see that, well, first of all, people I've been speaking to in Brussels, but also once the UK Parliament ratifies WA2, which is no different at all to WA1, which is the ghastly thing that Theresa May or may not produced for our delectation, the legislation will sail through Brussels and without any difficulty whatsoever and in very calm seas. So we are, in fact, going to leave the European Union on the 31st of January. The only problem is going to be Rhino, not Brexit. EU President Frau von der Leyen's optimism about the end of January's leaving date solidified my conviction last night, and after a couple of phone calls in the later hours, I was able to establish without any difficulty, because it's an open secret over there, that we are going to leave on the 31st. And the Faragistas will have their celebration, and I'm very pleased for them and all the rest of it. But unless we get a good trade deal, it's going to be meaningless. And the biggest problem of all, which people have such incredibly short memories, is that there is an enormous unexploded atom bomb in the withdrawal agreement that Boris has signed, which I must stress once again is absolutely no different in context, in content, to that agreed by the EU's sex slave Theresa. So let's just have a look on from now. We are committed under the withdrawal agreement to carry on paying vast amounts of blood money to these leeches every month from now on. Von der Leyen arrived in London yesterday and immediately said, yes, well, withdrawal deal, fine, yes, but trade deal ending on December 31st and all patched up. In your dreams, sweetie, or in deine Dramen, sweetie, as she might have said. Anyway, the point is that she just basically said to him, you must be joking. Now, Boris stuck to his guns to the extent of saying, we are leaving on December the 31st. He didn't actually make a fuss about it. And this is where he's going wrong, because this is what we always tend to do in our negotiations with the EU. We could walk out without a deal on December the 31st, but the EU is gambling that we won't do it. And I think they're probably right, because I think that Boris Johnson, as I've always said about the man, is he was the only person who was ever going to give us a chance at a decent Brexit. But you can't trust him as far as you can throw him. Everybody knows this. It's been proven over and over again in 100 different cover-ups and stitch-ups when he was mayor and all the rest of that nonsense. So either way, we're going to be stuck with the big unexploded atom bomb in the withdrawal agreement, and that is the European Investment Bank liabilities, which are horrendous. Now, I understand from one very reliable source that at least one Tory MP is proposing to put down a written question on this issue. We shall see. But I'm going to continue giving jubilant Brexiteers a hard time about their ridiculous overconfidence in relation to this until such time as people start trying to remember just how confident they've been in the past and how on every single occasion we've been played. And it's no different now. This is not nutjob conspiracy theory. It's just drilling into the facts like any good journo would do, except, of course, our journos don't do it anymore. Let me just take you back, if I may, to a post I wrote on October the 9th last year, in which it said, and this is quite a heavy headline, but I've yet to be sued about it, how Hammond the hypocrite gave away an NHS budget to help save his Brussels cronies. I basically said he was a man who was so great that he was laying down his country for his life. In fact, Philip Hammond is likely to increase the fears of UK infrastructure providers that they face being cut off from not only access to the European Investment Bank, but actually having to continue facing all the liabilities that the other lunatics will do once it all turns to poo in the next 2 years, and we will not anymore have our place at the table. I mean, people don't understand. What we're negotiating in that is the worst of all worlds for us. Now, in a way, the information I'm presenting to you is not exclusive. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but nobody wants to talk about it. I'm pretty sure this is what Andrew Neil wanted to grill Boris on, and Boris wasn't having any of it before the election, and therefore Boris got in. And actually, I work on the ABC principle of anyone but Corbyn. But now we've got Boris. His point is just, deregulating him, let him go off and do what he wants, because if he has that half a chance, you do nothing except accept what they tell us to do. Already, Barnier in Stockholm this morning has given a 5-point plan for how the negotiations will proceed. Well, fuck that, Barnier. We want to leave your crappy EU, and it's time we stopped letting them dictate the nature of the negotiation. They do not react well to that. They are bullies. Like old bullies, they react much better to someone giving them a punch on the nose. Perhaps, in a way, we should try and establish a little bit more about what happened with Hammond about a year and a half ago in relation to the EIB, the European Investment Bank. He was uniquely well placed to give the EIB a deal, hugely advantageous deal, and this is exactly what he did. Except, of course, that a good 2/3 of Commons MPs barely even know what the EIB is. And most journalists I've spoken to, when I raise it to them, they say, the EIB, what's that? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a European Investment Bank whose incompetence is exceeded only by its financial incontinence in terms of giving money to daft projects. And when it all starts to hit the fan, once the repo nonsense gets into Europe and Italy goes mental, then what we're going to wind up doing is having a liability under this so-called agreement that Hammond signed. Agreement, my God, it's more like a prison sentence, to start, serving up, doshing out lots of money, our money. And don't forget that every month we carry on doing this, the negotiation. They can drag it out as long as they like, and they want to because we are paying them literally millions every month to do this, on top of a 39 billion divorce agreement, which is nowhere to be found in any of the EU treaties or Article 50 or anywhere else. They just pulled a figure out of the air and we bought it because we are dumb. It's that simple. Now, I was the ineptitude of those who are supposed to be our legislators and don't even know what the EIB is. Let me just go back to that for a minute before you get bored of me ranting on at you. This is what Team Hammond agreed with the EIB. As a 16.1% shareholder in the bank, the UK would be due on departure a repayment, money to us from them, okay, of £11 billion in capital. That's not bad, 11 billion. That would go quite a way, not much, but quite a way towards solving and reversing the injustice of people just taking money off OAPs. Why? Because they're low-hanging fruit. No offence, ladies. I wasn't trying to suggest that you're little nasty bits of fat, rotten apples sticking off a tree or anything. It's just a figure of speech that we journalists use. Anyway, he wrote off, Hammond wrote off, gifted to the EU 7.5 billion of this, and let them pay the 3.5 billion pounds further in easy terms over a long period of time. Why? Why? And the answer is because he wanted to prove he was a good European. Anyway, Hammond has agreed that that sum will be paid back free, interest-free, over the next 12 years. My goodness me, things that can happen in 12 years. But what Hammond has put Britain on the line for is a further 36 billion of capital help with no preconditions at all to help underwrite anything that the euros, right, as and when required for some kind of share in the bizarre bank loan risk arrangements, when we're not even going to be a member of the bank anymore. We're not even going to be in the EU. Okay, Britain is handing over in total £123.5 billion, because that's what we are still, pounds, in gifts and liabilities we are under no compunction to offer. Throw in the insane £39 billion divorce fee and the total creeps up to £162.5 billion. Just to put that into some sort of perspective, it's bigger than where the Greek debt started before the EU moved in to help them and left them helped with a bill for €250 billion. It's the entire NHS budget, and it's enough to provide 100% restitution for all female SPA reform victims in the United Kingdom right now until they die. Until they die, okay? Now, Philip Hammond was often fond of suggesting that there was no money tree for British citizens, but there's loads of money for gangsters and bullies. When are we going to take the initiative on this and start reading the Riot Act to the EU? I'm not trying to start a war here. I'm just trying to be what I've always been all my life, a good commercial negotiator who wants to know what the other side wants, who doesn't want to humiliate the other side, but he's not going to be trodden on as if some kind of, front doorstep, coconut shell foot wiper. Forget it. We've got to stop doing that now. Right. Most of my stuff I hope will be a little bit funnier than this in the future. As I said, this is my first time as a talking head on YouTube and BitChute and whatever other things I can come up with as to get this message clearly across. But it's clearly not getting across. So do me a favour, will you, and show this to all your mates, from your grandma down to, your pets, and make sure that when it comes round to the next time people think about this, instead of giving Boris a carte blanche to do whatever the hell he likes, he is a chap who, like everybody in the city and all his mates, needs a regulator. You deregulate Boris and he'll screw you up the back passage. That's my message for tonight. And by the way, I am a very strong Brexiteer, as you've probably noticed, but I do live in the Eurozone. You can probably see that by the magic clock behind here, which shows you that although in your time it's only 4 PM GMT, it is 5 PM CET. So there you are, eyes like from the future. And the future's in this log. That was nearly 15 minutes worth of rant, and I hope you stayed with it. And I hope to talk to you again very soon on this channel. Stay tuned.